The 75th NASCAR season has officially kicked off with the 2023 Daytona 500, and we see a pretty wild ending with a pretty chaotic race, pretty bad coverage, and a pretty big upset winner in this year's Daytona 500. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. I just got done watching the 2023 Daytona 500. We got quite a bit to talk about from today's race, so let's go ahead and talk about it. So, before the green flag drop in today's race, a couple drivers have to start at the rear of the field. Kyle Busch, after getting involved in his crash in the duels, would have to go to a backup car, and we'd also see, I believe, Travis trying to have to start at the rear of the field after the wreck, though he was already starting at the rear of the field. So at the start of the race, they had Alex Bowman lead the field from the outside with Kyle Larson on the inside, and they were basically trading it back and forth. Kyle Larson led, then Alex Bowman led, and that was pretty much from the get-go for the first 12 laps. Then on lap number 13, Crystal was able to get a big run after Joey Logano gave a great push to Kyle Larson. Larson got loose, and Cristobal was able to get the lead on the outside line. Cristobal led for a while, and then we saw Kyle Larson get back to lead from the inside. Then Cristobal got back to the race lead, and then we saw Ty Dillon come to pit road with a major issue. Major issues coming out of the exhaust, and unfortunately would fall out of the race because of that, finishing last. Then we saw leaders start coming down pit road on lap 37 with all the Fords first coming down pit road. Then Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott, Noah Gragson, William Byron, Zane Smith, Corey LaJoie would all come down pit road. Then a few laps later, we saw a lot of the rest of the field come down pit road, including Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., Bubba Wallace, Jimmy Johnson, A. John Allmendinger, and Kyle Busch would all come down pit road. Meanwhile, Riley Hurst, who basically just got loose getting into the front stretch, he spun out. He basically tried to come down and bring a caution out by trying to stay on the grass, but NASCAR would not budge, and he would get a commitment line violation at the time. Then Travis Strada actually was leading, but he came down pit road the next lap and got a penalty for driving through too many pit stops. After the cycle concluded, Denny Hamlin would assume the race lead for the rest of the field due to Toyota strategy. Hamlin would have the race lead. Then a lap later, Chase Briscoe, he was able to get the lead. Then Denny Hamlin got the lead and would dominate the next portion. Bubba Wallace actually tried to get the lead on the outside about 10 laps later on Denny Hamlin, but he had some contact with Martin Truex Jr., hit the outside wall, got pretty significant damage, and had a lot of damage. With that, Martin Truex Jr. had the race lead, but with a few laps to go, with about 2 or 3 laps to go, Brad Keselowski made his move to the inside lane, had help from his, I believe, his teammate Chris Buescher, and Brad Keselowski was able to pass, and he was able to win stage number 1 at Daytona. Then we basically have all the cautions come out, and A.J. Allmendinger would get the free pass. He basically almost caused a big wreck by basically splitting it. Riley Hurst also almost caused a big wreck in this race. Then we saw a little bit of strategy where Noah Gragson stayed out for a lap to lead a lap, and then we had Chris Buescher basically have a bad pit stop, and Noah Gragson then eventually came down pit road. So on the restart, Ryan Preece, who actually won the race off pit road, he would lead from the inside with Brad Keselowski on the outside, and Brad Keselowski was able to get the race lead. It basically be trading back and forth between basically all the Fords, guys like Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski, and Aric Almirola were trading the lead back and forth, but eventually it became a single file lane, where it was single file for most of the next portion of this race. Then all the Chevys came down pit road except A.J. Allmendinger, and unfortunately, Kyle Busch got a speeding penalty on pit road. He was back up front after having to start at the rear. He got a speeding penalty and put him in the back. Then we saw a few more cars come down pit road, guys like Brad Keselowski, Ryan Preece, A.J. Allmendinger, Michael McDowell, Chase Briscoe, and Aric Almirola. Then in the next lap, we saw Kevin Harvick, Tyler Reddick, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin, Ty Gibbs, and Christopher Bell come down pit road. And then next lap, we had Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Chris Buescher, and Harrison Burton come down pit road. And after all the cycles basically concluded, Joey Logano was able to basically get the race lead. We saw a little bit of stupidity and chaos as Ryan Blaney tried to make multiple blocks on the track. Luckily, though, there was not a big wreck. Eventually, a few laps later, Chris Buescher got the lead. Then the next lap, Joey Logano got the lead. And then the first crash for incident came out on lap 118 for a situation between Tyler Reddick and Kevin Harvick. Tyler Reddick seemed to get a little bit loose, but Kevin Harvick also got into the back of Tyler Reddick, spinning him out while battling for 4th position. This unfortunately collected Ryan Blaney. Kyle Larson got involved, Chase Elliott, Martin Truex Jr., Erik Jones, and Daniel Suarez all end up getting involved in a wreck. Unfortunately, Erik Jones, Daniel Suarez's, and Chase Elliott's days unfortunately came to a close after that wreck. Despite the fact that Ryan Blaney had a lot of damage, he was able to continue on. After all the strategy basically happened, you had some guys basically stay out like Joe Logano, Martin Truex Jr., Ross Chastain, while the rest leaders came down pit road. Unfortunately, Jimmy Johnson and B.J. McLeod got speeding penalties. So basically, on the restart, Joe Logano lead the field from the inside with Ross Chastain in second, and Joe Logano was able to get the lead. Then with 3 laps to go, Ross Chastain was able to pass Joey Logano for the lead and was able to get the lead. But he had Alex Bowman on the inside. So coming to the last lap, he had Ross Chastain on the inside and Alex Bowman on the outside. Basically, coming to the line, Bowman had the advantage going to turn number 3, but coming off the corner, Chastain got a really strong run, and he would win stage number 2 at Daytona International Speedway. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch actually got back on the lead lap after a speeding penalty. He was able to get back up on the lead lap. During the caution flag, Bubba Wallace actually decided to stay out while the rest leaders came down pit road. Unfortunately, there was a lot of penalties. Ross Chastain, who won the stage, got a penalty for speeding. Christopher Bell also got an equipment penalty, and Noah Gragson got an uncontrolled tire violation. So on the restart, you had Bubba Wallace lead the field from the outside with Eric Almirola on the inside, and we were able to see Bubba Wallace lead for a second, but Eric Almirola eventually got the lead. Then the next lap, trouble struck where debris came off the car of Ryan Blaney. That would bring out the next caution for a tire carcass going onto the racetrack. We see a little bit of strategy where guys like Kyle Larson, William Byron, Chase Briscoe, Joe Logano, Noah Gragson, and Kyle Busch topped off, while the rest leaders decided to stay out. Meanwhile, we had some contact on pit road during that time where Alex Bowman had some contact with Noah Gragson. Very unfortunate situation, just a bad mistake and untimed situation for both drivers. So we go back green with 57 laps to go with Eric Almirola lead the field from the inside with Chris Buescher on the outside, and Eric Almirola was able to get the lead. Then the next couple laps, Chris Buescher was able to get the lead, and he led the next 8 or 9 laps. Then Eric Almirola, he was able to get the race lead and dominated the next portion, but eventually Chris Buescher got basically back to the race lead after that. Then Bubba Wallace came down pit road first after not pitting for 48 laps. He came down pit road to top off. Then we saw first some of the Fords come in, guys like Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski, Eric Almirola, Zane Smith, Austin Cindric, all came down pit road under green. And then the next lap, you had Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Travis Strana, Riley Herbst, and Connor Daly come down pit road. Then the next lap, you had Christopher Bell, Ty Gibbs, Chase Briscoe, Kevin Harvick, and Michael McDowell come down pit road. And then you had a bunch of guys the next time come down were Daniel Suarez, Kyle Larson, Austin Dillon, Ross Chastain, A.J. Allmendinger, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. all come down pit road, where Ricky Stenhouse Jr. speeding on the exit. Then the next lap, you had Harrison Burton, Joe Logano, Noah Gragson, William Byron, Cody Ware, and Kyle Busch come down pit road. Then the field was basically getting stacked up. Harrison Burton had the race lead at the time, but unfortunately for Harrison Burton, he was able to keep the race lead. Meanwhile, with 19 laps to go in the race, we saw the first, second, or third major wreck of the race for incident where Michael McDowell had some contact from basically Ryan Preece after contact, I believe, from Eric Almirola, if I'm not mistaken. Eric Almirola checked up. There was contact between them, and a bunch of drivers ended up getting involved, including Kevin Harvick, Chase Briscoe, Martin Truex Jr., Jimmy Johnson, Michael McDowell, and Ty Gibbs were all involved in the crash. Unfortunately, took out a bunch of contenders out of the race, and it was really unfortunate situation. Just unfortunate stuff, catching up and basically checking up, trying to get in line to get a run up to the front of those guys. But luckily, some were able to continue while others, unfortunately, ended up wrecking. So we went back green with 13 laps to go with Harrison Burton lead the field from the outside with Joe Logano on the inside. And we saw a really dive bomb move from A.J. Allmendinger where he's able to get to the race lead after making a really big thing. And Joe Logano actually got really loose and fell back through the field. Then with about 8 laps to 10 laps to go in this race, Brad Keselowski had some help from Chris Buescher from 4th or 5th position and was able to get the race lead. At this point, drivers are basically setting up where they were going to go ahead and try to make the move for the win. And with 4 laps to go, Kyle Busch gets a really big help from Austin Dillon. He goes to the outside lane, makes a really strong run, and is able to get the race lead. And it looks like this could be Kyle Busch's race to win. Unfortunately, the caution would come out with 3 laps to go for Daniel Suarez, who had some contact with Harrison Burton. Suarez just making, I think, maybe a little bit of a bad block, or Harrison Burton getting into him. Just unfortunate situation. Daniel Suarez spun through the grass, bringing out the caution with just 3 laps to go. Because of that, we would go into overtime. And it had Kyle Busch leading the field from the outside with Austin Dillon on the inside. And we were able to see Kyle Busch lead on the restart, try to get in front of Austin Dillon. But then Joe Logano got a really strong push. But then Ricky Stenhouse Jr. also got a great run down the backstretch and was able to get the race lead. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch and Austin Dillon were falling back. And then Austin Dillon got turned by William Byron down the backstretch, bringing out a pretty massive accident. Many cars involved. Just a bad move by William Byron. Got into the backfield. Just a really bad push. This collected Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, the defending winner, Austin Dillon, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Riley Herbst, Harrison Burton, Justin Haley, Zane Smith, Todd Gillen, Noah Gragson, Jimmy Johnson were all involved in the crash. So then we go to the final tough break for everybody involved in that situation. Just a bad incident right there. That was definitely on William Byron right there for the incident. He got into the back of Austin Dillon out of there checking up and it's time to go. But that was definitely for sure on William Byron. So we get to the final restart of the race with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. leading the field from the outside with Kyle Larson on the inside, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. got the lead on the restart. Then you got Kyle Larson getting really a strong push on the inside, and down the backstretch on the restart, Kyle Larson was giving a massive and a fantastic push from behind as well, and Larson was able to at one point clear for the race lead. But as they're coming to the white flag of this race, you have Ricky Stenhouse Jr. leading, and then I believe Logano was the one who basically tried to send it 3 wide and tried to get up there. Larson gets sent 3 wide to the middle, and then a big one strikes going into turn number 1. 2 separate incidents basically end up happening where Kyle Larson gets turned by Travis Pastrana after some contact with Eric Almirola. Larson hits the outside wall really, really hard, and there was a second incident that happened where Brad Keselowski got collected, and unfortunately Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, and a couple other drivers end up getting involved in the wreck. Guys involved in the last wreck were Kyle Larson, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, Eric Almirola, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, AJ Allmendinger, Bubba Wallace, and Travis Pastrana were among the drivers that were involved in the wreck. Because of that, we were wondering when the caution was going to come out. When the caution came out, it would be Ricky Stenhouse Jr., who has not won in almost 6 years. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. picks up his first win of the 2023 season in the biggest race of the year, the Daytona 500, with JTG Daugherty Racing. A massive win for this organization. Their first win since AJ Allmendinger's win back in 2014 at Watkins Glen. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. picks up the victory in the Daytona 500. Massive congratulations to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Stenhouse comes back from a speeding penalty as well. Stenhouse was quiet most of the day, was never really a major contender until the end of the day, but you got to be in the right position at the right time, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. showed up at the right position and the right time and was able to pick up a pretty big victory. So at the end of the day, massive congratulations to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's a pretty good super speedway racer. We've been wondering if he was going to win. He came very close to winning it last year, and now Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is finally a Daytona 500 winner, and now is already locked into the playoffs. Man, that's frustrating to say, but Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is a Daytona 500 winner. So congratulations to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on winning the 2023 Daytona 500. So now we'll go ahead and go through the results of today's race, and I'll give you my score for today's race. So Ricky Stenhouse Jr. wins the race. Joey Logano finishes second. Joey Logano was really good today, in my opinion. He had a top 5 and top 10 car most of the day. He was really up there. I thought he was maybe in the catbird seat to win the race, but a really strong second place finish nonetheless. We're going to try to go defend the championship this year. Great second place run for Joey Logano. He finishes second. Christopher Bell finishes third. Christopher Bell in the early portion looked like he had the best car, but kind of fell back and got trapped way in the back of the field. But still recovers a very strong run in third place. Great run from Christopher Bell. Chris Buescher finishes fourth. Near the end of the race, he and Brad Keselowski are working really, really well together. He was leading at that point before the green flag pit stops happened. Led a ton of laps today, and a great run from the RFK boys, Chris Buescher finishing fourth. Alex Bowman finishes fifth. Great run from Alex Bowman. Bowman led quite a few laps today. Was up front near the end. Great run from Alex Bowman in fifth position. AJ Allmendinger finishes sixth. At move that he made, basically trying to split the lap traffic, is going to be questioned. And I think it's understandable for it being questioned, but he still gets a top 10 finish. Great run from AJ Allmendinger. He finishes sixth. Daniel Suarez, great recovery for him after spinning out with 3 or 4 laps to go in the race. He bounced back to top 10 finish with a 7th place run. Great run for the Trackhouse driver. Been a big week for him. Good to see Daniel Suarez end off the Daytona 500 by finishing 7th. Ryan Blaney finishes 8th despite having a lot of damage. Fantastic comeback for Ryan Blaney. I thought Ryan Blaney was going to fall out of the race. The fact that he nearly came back and won this thing is pretty impressive. Great run from Ryan Blaney. Ross Chastain was involved in the second to last accident. He bounces back to finish 9th. Great run from Ross Chastain at the end of the day. Sucks he didn't get a chance to win. He won a stage. He finishes 9th. And Riley Herbst finishes 10th. How about that for Riley Herbst? You know, for a guy who was involved in multiple incidents today, for his first NASCAR Cup Series start, he gets a top 10 finish. Great run from Riley Herbst today in his debut. I know he gets involved in multiple incidents like I mentioned here, but he still finishes 10th. Good run from Riley Herbst. Travis Pastrana finishes 11th. I know Travis Strong is probably going to get blamed for the last incident. I think it's questionable if Eric Almirola is at fault or Travis Strong is at fault. That's one going to be tough to question. But Travis Strong was in the top 10 near the end of the race. It gets 11th place finish in his NASCAR Cup Series debut. He doesn't know for sure if he'll run anymore after this or not. I would love to see Travis Strong come back. He finishes in 11th. Kevin Harvick, after getting involved in a couple wrecks today, he bounces back to finish 12th in his final Daytona 500. Good to see Kevin Harvick kind of ended off on a high note. I know 12th isn't a great finish, but 12th is a solid run. Zane Smith in his Cup Series, his second start, finishes 13th. Great run from Zane Smith. He bounces back. Cody Ware finishes 14th. Great run from Cody Ware. Corey LaJoie is up front a lot of the day. Finishes in 15th. Good run from him. Mark Truex Jr., who I thought was going to be completely out of it, he finishes 16th. Denny Hamlin, who got some damage, he finishes 17th. Kyle Larson finishes 18th. What could have been for Kyle Larson? He was up there near the end of the race, was really good today, had one of his best super speed races I've ever seen him run from start to finish, ran a lot of the race up front, led quite a few laps. It's a shame. I thought he was going to win it. He was there on the white flag. Unfortunately, just a bad mistake happened and just nowhere to go for him and got involved in a wreck that wasn't really his doing. He still finishes 18th, though. It's still plenty of time. He's got time to win the Daytona 500. It's unfortunate to finish 18th, but he did get some, I think he got some stage points. I'm not sure, though. Kyle Busch finishes 19th. Man, Kyle Busch was 3 laps away from winning the 500. And if that Daniel Suarez wreck doesn't happen, I think Kyle Busch wins the 500. He was this close once again to winning the Daytona 500. I'm not sure if he's ever going to win it, but I hope he does. But 19th still, not the greatest start. Unfortunately, he was running up the front, started in the back, was up front a lot of the day, finishes 19th. I wish Kyle Busch could have won this race. I really was rooting for him to win, but he finishes 19th. Bubba Wallace, after getting involved in the last lap accident, he finished 20th. Not a great day from Bubba Wallace. He was up front early, got some damage, but unfortunately finishes 20th. Tough spot for Bubba Wallace. Thought he was going to be more of a threat and come back. His car just was not the same once he got on the outside wall, because before that incident where he got on the outside wall in lap 53 or 54, he was completely a contender. He finishes 20th. Eric Almirola finishes in 21st. He had a fast car today, one of the 2 or 3 best cars of the race. He finishes 21st. Brad Keselowski finishes 22nd. Keselowski was strong today, like he was last year. Unfortunately, got involved in the big one. Not sure if he's okay or not. Hopefully, he's okay. Brad Keselowski finished 22nd. Austin Cindric, after getting involved in the big one, he finishes 23rd. Noah Gragson finishes 24th. Ty Gibbs finishes 25th. Harrison Burton finishes 26th. Todd Gilliland finishes 27th. Michael McDowell finishes 28th. Connor Daly finishes 29th. 30th for BJ McLeod. 31st for Jimmy Johnson. Tough break for Jimmy Johnson, who was in the top 10 near the end of the race, but got involved in that second to last big wreck. He finishes 31st. Tough break for him. Justin Haley, I thought was going to be more of a threat today. He finishes 32nd. Austin Dillon finishes 33rd. William Byron finishes 34th. Chase Briscoe finishes 35th. Ryan Preece finishes 36th. Eric Jones finishes 37th. Chase Elliott finishes 38th. Tough break for him. Ty Reddick finishes 39th. And finishing last in 40th place is Ty Dillon. So now I'm going to give you my score for tonight's race and give you my thoughts overall. This Daytona 500, in my opinion, was actually a very solid race. It wasn't great by any stretch of the imagination. I will say last year's Daytona 500 was definitely better than this year's Daytona 500. But there's definitely good points. There was a lot of side-by-side. There's also a lot of strung-out moments where I wish this race had a little bit of better moments. I'm going to give tonight's Daytona 500 overall an 8.5 out of 10. I think it's also finish effects a little bit, so maybe an 8 out of 10 might actually be my score. I've been a little bit fluctuated, and I'll talk about why it's hard to really rate this race in a second, but I'll give this race overall an 8 and 8.5 out of 10. That's my score for tonight's race. Now let's talk about the Fox coverage. I'm going to say one thing. I've been pretty critical on social media. If you follow me on Twitter or my other social medias, you know I'm very critical of Fox. Fox's coverage was horrendous today. Some of the worst coverage I've ever seen from Fox. Someone tallied up, I believe there were 23 or 24 times where there was a commercial break in the race. Whether that was under green or whether that was under caution, there were 23 commercial breaks. Absolutely absurd and absolutely unacceptable. When you have Tom Grossi, who doesn't watch NASCAR, when he comments on the end of the race and talks about the coverage of the race and it's bad, you know it's bad. The coverage today was embarrassing. Fox should be ashamed of themselves with how bad the coverage was. The coverage gets a 3 out of 10. The pre-race I thought was pretty good, all things considered, but there were so many commercials in this race, and it hurts the score of the race too, and it's hard to rate this because the coverage for Fox tonight was absolutely embarrassing. It was an awful coverage from Fox. Fox should know better. It's a shame. They've got these cartoons, which are terrible. Fox is just doing a lot of things wrong, and it was embarrassing as a fan. It's a shame, too, because it affected this race, because a lot of great things were happening. There could have been more side-by-side, but there wasn't. But Fox's coverage tonight was a complete joke and a complete embarrassment for NASCAR in general. But that's all I'm going to say on that. So, that is going to be it for the 2023 Daytona 500 race review. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Notifications on to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links are down below over that, and comment below your thoughts below on today's video. What are your thoughts on the 2023 Daytona 500? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know your score for today's Daytona 500. And also congratulate Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on winning the Daytona 500. Tomorrow on the channel, I should have a NASCAR news video discussing all the NASCAR news over the last couple days. And trust me, we've got a lot of nuggets and things to talk about. Tuesday is going to be race picks for Auto Club. We got a lot of other content dropping on the channel throughout this week that you will see. Can't wait for to share you guys more content. A lot of content coming out here soon. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's race review, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.